Thank you. So before we go into the presentation, there are some guidelines that I would like to go over with. So first, we are Thoric, so a community of passionate individuals with purposes to revolutionize software design, creation, delivery, while advocating for social change. We are spread, so our website, a little bit about us. We are spread across 15 countries. In Brazil, we have 4 offices. I come from the top Northeast office. And we are always hiring, so you can check up our careers, always hiring. We have a code of conduct. We are dedicated to providing a friendly, safe, and welcoming environment for all, regardless of race, whatever, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, age, appearance, disability, religion, and lack of and marital, socioeconomic, veteran protected status. We invite everybody to create a safe and positive experience. And if you witness any unacceptable behavior according to our code of conduct, you can either contact me, Elisa, or our website or email. It's a lot of words, but it's a very simple concept. You may just try to respect the other, regardless of whatever they want to choose with their life. If you choose that, if you go by their rule, you're going to fit in the code of conduct perfectly. So yeah, the presentation. So breaking the boundaries. The idea of the presentation is we in the software development area, we have a lot of division between devs and QAs and BAs and a lot of that stuff. So the idea is how can we break a little bit the boundaries, and instead of having separate teams, how can you be one single team working with the same purpose? This presentation was done me and Mauricio. We are here in San Francisco for a 6-month assignment. I'm already here for 3 months. Mauricio, unfortunately, had a personal issue to take care of, so he returned to Brazil last week. So a little bit about me. Alisa already told me, but I'm Rafael Lima. I'm a consultant at Thoric. I work with IT since 2003, I think. That's a long time. There's my personal and my Thoric's email and my LinkedIn. If you have any questions regarding the presentation, Alisa is going to share the presentation, and we can chat, we can discuss. So the separation, right? So as I was telling about, we have, when I started working, there was clear division between QAs and devs. You had like a dev team and a QA team. I'm not sure how that's working right here in San Francisco. General, but in Brazil there are a lot of prejudice towards QAs, and usually devs have prejudice towards QA, and QA just blame devs for not writing good code. So a little bit about like showing what's the common pattern of the separation is. You have the requirements. I put here PO, product owner, user. It can be like a BA. It can be anyone in charge of the business itself. A dev and a QA. So usually the QA and the business person and the dev writes the requirement. The devs develop. A few weeks later, you have personnel testing, and then sometimes later you have bugs and you stay in this loop for a while. This can vary. Sometimes a QA can, they have the process of QA coming in. Sometimes only the devs write the requirements, so it depends on each team, each project. So you stay in this loop until you have decent quality software, right? This can take some time. This also can take, so the development team asked for 3 weeks. The testing team asked for 2 weeks. The develop team deliver with 4 weeks, 1 week after that. So will the test team has 2 weeks as they requested? No, they're going to have 1 week. And the manager probably is going to be, hey, you need to deliver on time, you are retaining us, we need to move faster, and then the test team is going to work after hours and so on and so forth. So one of the patterns that we believe in is the test pyramid. This is a anti-pattern called the ice cream cone, where you have unit tests here, integration tests. By integration test, that depends on the terminology. I'm calling integration test Each team, each project has its own terminology. In this one, I'm calling integration the integration between components. So in the unit, you are only testing the individual component, a specific method, and you are mocking everything else. Like if you need the database, you are mocking that. In the integration now, you can test the controller with the model with the database. But this is still a sort of like unit test, white box testing. You have more UI testing, and you have a bunch of manual testing. So as you go up the ice cone, not calling that a pyramid, as you go up the ice cone, the time to fix increases and the cost also increases. You have, if you find any issue here, especially if there is a separation team, then you're going to have to push back the functionality, the bug or whatever to the team. It might be like a support team, it might be a prod bug. So as you go up, it gets harder and harder and harder. Maybe even it's not the same team that's going to take care of prod bugs. So a new team has to come in and understand what was done. So this takes time and takes money. So when you have like a team, this is how we try to influence our clients to work as a single team, no separation. So this is how it would work. So now we have the BA or the business in charge personnel working with the dev, the QA writing the requirements, acceptance tests, whatever you need. Then it goes to in progress. The dev, we're going to write regression tests. By regression tests, I mean unit, integration, functional, non-functional, whatever you have automated. The dev, before pushing the code, is going to run those tests. You have automated, then the dev should run it. The dev even should write it. I'm going to go there in a little. So if you find any bug or any broken build, you stay in this loop, right? So the dev is going to stay in this loop until it passes, right? At this point, whoever is writing that code knows what the issue is, right? Just by looking at the logs, or the error message, is going to know exactly the line, and he or she is just writing the code, is probably going to know already what's the problem. So it's not going to take much time debugging that code. So once nothing happens, no bugs found, or the build is green, you go to ready for test. Sometimes you can even have a pair between devs and QA to share that mindset. This is how I work now. So in my current project, I'm the engineer with the most experience in quality. So I pair with the devs to share whatever I have in my mind, or how I test the code, how I test the functionality. And also I work developing some code pairing, and I get some knowledge from whoever I'm pairing. So this is like an ongoing sharing knowledge. So you find any issue, you go back to ready to play. Again, this can diverge from team to team, the process of how this works. If you don't find anything, go sign off. So if you find something at this point, and you go back to ready to play, whoever developed already picked up a new card. So if that person is going to pass on the knowledge or the context to another team, to another person, or if he's going to give that rejected story to someone else, regardless, it's going to be time consuming. So as soon as you leave here, then it's going to lose a little bit more time, and it's going to be time consuming and it's going to cost you. So after sign off, if it was sign off the functionality and you find anything here, it's probably going to be a pre-prod bug or even a prod bug. So again, you're probably going to have maybe a support team to deal with, even if it's the develop team that's dealing with that. That was maybe a month after finding it, 15 days, a little bit more. So that person might be sick, that person might be on vacation, that person might have left the company. So again, you're going to have a very hard time tracking that bug. So ideally, you should be catching bugs here. So it's not about catching bugs, it's about preventing bugs. You should be good at preventing bugs and not actually finding it, because when you find it, probably a user found it. So this is the test pyramid where it's a healthy one, where you have automated tests, unit tests, a big chunk. You have a little bit more integration, a little bit less integration, API, when you have an API, UI, and manual tests. Of course, you're going to have manual tests. You want to do some sort of sanity check, maybe if you need one. That's up to the team. And again, as you go up the pyramid, the cost goes higher and the time to fix goes higher. The same pattern applies. So the idea of having more unit tests is you have less time to create the test, you have less time to execute the test. So a developer who has experience writing unit tests probably is going to write a unit test in a couple minutes tops. If it's a really hard one, it's going to take maybe 5-10 minutes, and it's going to run in few milliseconds. So it's going to give you a really, really good feedback running thousands of tests. When you go up API, then you already have a system spinning. You're going to have stubs. You're going to have a lot of stuff happening. It's going to be more time consuming to create one single test. Instead of having like few minutes to write one single test, you're going to have like maybe half a day to write a few tests here. Depends on the complexity. If it's UI, then you definitely depend on their experience. You can even lose easily a day writing one single test. And if it's an end-to-end test, then it's going to be more than one single day. So which areas we can, as a QA, you can influence the dev team? So you have the business, you have business requirements, you have development, you have testing, you have deploy, you have support. Right? You don't necessarily need to be a automated QA person. You can influence your team in quality ways throughout the whole process. And it's up to you which one you're more comfortable with and which one you want to have more deep dive knowledge. So I have a question. Who works here in an environment where a QA in a dev is part of a separate team? Just raise your hand. Okay. And whoever, I imagine that who didn't raise a hand works in a same team, share the same board? Okay, a few? Okay. And who does more manual tests than automation tests? Okay. So in the business requirement, just a few hints, tips. Does the team understand the business need? Are we signing off what was expected? Are we signing off what the user wanted? Right? We can create kick-ass code, but if it was not what the user wanted, what the business actually needed to fix or to tackle a problem, then it doesn't matter what kind of code you created. Does the dev know what we are aiming for? Right. It's easy when you have only a small system, but when you have multiple web services and you have different teams working different web services, it's very easy to focus only on what you're building and you forget the rest. Right. Right now, the system that I work for, we have 3 systems and none of them have UIs. The UI are done in another team, another web service. So I constantly need to tell the devs that, hey, what we're building, how the user are interacting with us, because we just get called. We don't have any real user interaction, but we still have user interaction, we just don't develop that. But you have to have that mindset and have to still think of the user. Development side, so how is your CI and CD strategy, right? Are the devs writing quality code? Are they doing DDD? Are they doing TDD or whatever you decided the team needs to do? Can the devs refactor code with an easy mind? Can the dev delete a code with an easy mind? Delete code is awesome, refactor is awesome, but if you refactor something and you have no idea that's going to keep working in your system, then you should not refactor it. Are the devs running our test suite before pushing the code? So if you can have gazillion tests automated perfectly, but if the devs don't trigger those tests before pushing the code to your repository, then it's kind of useful. Only when CI breaks, you're going to know what happened. And when your CI broke, then that means that other teams are pushing code they should not, but they might push code that's not going to be checked. Testing. What kind of testing do we need? Do we need UI, API, contract? Are we going to do TDD, BDD, manual tests, security, performance? Depends. You cannot do everything. You won't have time and money to do everything. You're probably going to have to prioritize, and you're going to need to tackle what's most important to your team. And deploy. Is the deploy manual or automated? I already have worked with manual deploy, and it's painful. And it's very easy to make an error. How can we improve our deploy? If we're doing manual deploy, how can we make it automated? If it's automated, how can we improve the automated? Can any push go straight to an environment? Like you push to a code, it passes your strategy CI pipeline. Can that go straight to an environment? Can that go straight to production? So I know that there are teams, there are companies and product that you can actually push, and if everything passes your test, the team has a level of maturity that it's safe to say, hey, if it passes all of our tests, you can go to prod. You don't even have to ask us. So every push can go to prod. And once you have that, I never had the joy of working with that kind of level of maturity yet, someday maybe. But then the teams can be less afraid of deploying it and use the deploy to production to actually drive a business. So imagine it's a holiday, Christmas, and you are testing a new functionality. You think a button is going to make easier the user. And you put some analytics behind it, and as a matter of fact, that new functionality or whatever you tried to do didn't work. So what are you going to do? You're going to wait for the code freeze, as some company does, because it's a holiday, or you're going to just fix it and do other ways. So once if you have that kind of maturity, you can just fix it, change it as people are using it. Of course, not that simple. You have to have blue-green deployment. You have to have all kinds of different strategy, but it's doable. And support. Are the prod users being supported? They found the issues. Are they being taken care of? Are they being listened to? How can we improve the time to answer users and fix their issues? So some of high level. And I'm going to talk here a little bit about 3 dimensions, right? So the business dimension is a dimension where a QA can impact and can work with. So the QAs in this dimension are really driven by the business. So they understand the business, they know the requirements, they know everything that needs to be done. They can help the PO or the BA with BDD, with getting ACs. They have the skill to help the team to understand the business context given by the client. They have communication skills to understand, when I say client, I'm very used to work for clients, but it can be also product or users. They have the communication skills to help the team to focus on the business problem of the whole project. Once the devs or the whole team has the idea of business issues and what we are trying to fix, then the devs can help you achieve that as well and not only rely on few people. They also help get acceptance tests from the client, right? You can do BDD, you cannot do BDD. BDD helps to straighten the difference between the language from the business and the language that the dev speaks. And that's help you understand a little bit more, helps ramp up people that's new just by reading your scenarios. And they make sure everyone in the project have a big picture understanding, something that I just talked about. And they also make sure the ACs are written and they have a clear, and the devs have a clear understand what needs to be done, right? And they also make sure that whatever is being signed off is what the user wanted. So when I first started on a project that I worked before, I joined the team and the devs were writing the story on the go. They were writing the code, and whenever they needed something different that it was not already written, they would go there and understand a little bit more, do some research, talk to the business, and write their story as they went. So this slowed us down a lot. When we work with 15 days iteration, so when the iteration starts, you should already have everything laid for that specific story. You should not go with that story and still figuring that out. So at that point, everything was changing. You didn't have like something set that say, hey, this is what the business wants. If they need to change, we need to kick back the story or we need to create a new story. No, they were writing and changing on the go. And this is hard because it's very easy to get at the end of the story, and it was not what the user wanted. It was different thing, and that's not quality. You're going to write code that you don't need it. Then a technical dimension, right? Some of us like more technical stuff. So in my opinion, the ideal world, there should be no difference between QAs and developers. QAs are engineers with more experience in quality. Devs are engineers more experience in writing code. So you can have in your team a back-end expert, a front-end expert, a quality expert, a DevOps expert. So they make sure that the team is properly testing the app. They can help the team write TDD, write BDD. They can help the team, pair with the team to write the code. They have some good automation knowledge and help the team to choose the best tool for the job. I don't know how many tools you have for automation anymore, but you have to choose one that best fits you. They also make sure that the team has a good test strategy at hand. So you can do a lot of testing, but you need to have a prioritization of what needs to be tested first. They also have a good business understanding in order what to test, what matters, right? Again, if the code is not done in a way that is going to impact the business, and if you're not testing the requirements, then again, it's going to be hard to get your objective done. And they are eager to learn new techniques and new tools. And the DevOps dimension, right? So they introduce and maintain CD practices and help the team to achieve the CI strategy to receive faster feedback. So we have a CI for faster feedback, and you have the test pyramid for faster feedback. The unit tests run first, then you go a little bit more. So once you push the code, in a few minutes, you already know if it passes the unit level or not, and then you go up, and then it's going to take a little bit more time. And also, you need someone to be the advocate of that. You need to be, what's the English word I'm looking for? You need to be not boring. You need to be a pain in the ass of the team, basically, because if the CI breaks and the team is not looking at the CI, then why do you need a CI? So the CI needs to be I can show you later, but there is a tool called CC menu for Mac that you can put the CI in your dashboard in your Mac, and if something runs, you have like a notification that say, hey, it passed, it failed. And it's very often that I say that I need to go into my team. Right now they are in Brazil. I need to text them, but I say, hey, who broke the build? Oh, it was me. Did I break it? Yes, you did. So take care of it, and next time look at the build. So if you have a build and you're not looking at it, then there is no point having a build. And also, I don't like being the build watcher, let's say that, and I constantly I tell my team, you need to look at the build. And this in the beginning, I had to tell them to look at the build, and I had to tell the build was broken more often. Now, only a few times. They can create automation tools to run repetitive tasks. So sometimes you have to do the same task over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Is there any way you can automate that? In my current project, you have a repository for the code, and the unit tests, you have a different repository for performance tests, and you have a different repository for functional tests. So basically, you have to we use Gradle. We have to go to one command line and run. You can do on the IntelliJ or whatever IDE you use it, but on the command line, you have to go to one folder and run it, go to another folder and run it, and go to another folder and run it. And that's very time consuming. So we created a CLI, a command line tool that you just say, hey, system run tests, and it's going to run everything else, and it's going to know where you needs to go to run the test. And if the team is struggling to run the test, you can create also watches to run automatically. So if your project's in Python, in Ruby, they have a lot of testing tool to help you. So you can basically say, if I save a code, run the test. Or if I try to commit, run the test and only commit if the test passes. So you force the team to do. So there are a lot of tools that you can use to help you out achieving that. And I can say that maybe there are 3 hats for the QA, quality analyst, quality assurer, and quality ambassador. So everything that we discussed, you have to analyze, you have to make sure that that's being achieved, and you have to advocate, you have to pair with team, you have to share your knowledge, so you have to be the quality ambassador. Not only testing is going to do the job, you need to spread the knowledge, and you need to have your team doing that kind of stuff. Here at ThoughtWorks, sometimes we don't have a QA in the team because of there was no person available, or because there was no requirement in the beginning. So you might start a project without a QA. So how is going to be the quality of that code if you don't have a QA? Is it going to be a doomed project or not? So usually when I never saw a doomed project, I saw some good test strategy. Sometimes a QA as an expert would do different, but I still see some good pattern because people share the knowledge and they learn with each other. So that's pretty much the idea. So who here relates to any of those dimensions? Maybe all of them. So you might not be an expert on all of those dimensions, but you have you have a step on each and every one of them. And this is what we call a T profile, where you have a general knowledge and you have a deep dive knowledge, a specialist knowledge. So in my case, I know DevOps, I know how to code, I know how to write stories, but my specialization is quality. The same thing would go for a developer at ThoughtWorks. He knows how to QA, he or she knows how to QA, how to write stories, but he's a coding specialist. If I'm testing something and I'm pairing with that person, I'm going to share the knowledge with him or her. If I'm coding with that person, then I'm going to learn a little bit more with that person. So that's how the T works. If we are going to compare, let's say if I'm writing a story and a dev is writing a story, me as a QA that are very interested in the BA area, I'm probably going to do a better job writing the scenarios and writing the stories than him. And how it started, I talk a bunch, nice words, but okay, Rafael, how can I start? Where do I start from on breaking that boundaries? Alisa, can you, it's probably someone there. Yeah, in the front desk, yeah. Okay. How do I start, right? So I have something to show, so. I'm going to start a little bit with macros. Any tool that you work with has probably macros, Notepad++, Sublime, Atom. So very basic, but this is a US phone number. So I want to make a pattern of a number, right? But you don't have one number. You have maybe, I don't know how many numbers. So I'm not sure if already people have some macro knowledge. Sometimes macro people can confuse with Excel macros, but you don't have to code for macros, you just need to record it. So I can record a macro. I can do whatever I need to do. And I set up the next step. So I put down into the beginning of the line. I stop my macro. And now I can replay my macro. So Control-Shift-Q, Control-Shift-Q. Yeah. And now you can do everything at once. Not perfect. Or in Sublime, you can have you can make multiple selections and you can do this. Probably nowadays, any IDE or editor, we're going to do that. So that's going to be the first thing that I wanted to share. The second one would be, oh, shoot. Browser JavaScript or Selenium IDE, right? So sometimes you have some more like repetitive tests that you need to do in your test. So you can use Selenium IDE. I personally don't like a lot the Selenium IDE because the code is very polluted and it's hard to scale and to maintain. But I like it for if you need to do some sort of simple test that you need to click in that button 100 times, 500 times. Are you really going to do 500 times? You can use a tool that can help you achieve that. Selenium can help you achieve that. Or you can use your JavaScript console to do that for you. So I had an issue where we use, in the project that I work right now, we use a queue manager to receive the message. So any system that wants to communicate with my system, they send a message to that queue, and my system go and picks up that queue. So the only way you can interact with the system is putting data in that queue. So we are doing some performance tests, and you are able to do it in any pre-prod environment, but we wanted to check the prod environment. And we weren't able to run the command line tool to trigger that. So either we did some sort of IDE or JavaScript to do that, or we could basically hit 1,000 times. But definitely didn't want to hit 1,000 times. So what we did was I like the Firefox for developing better than the Chrome, and I like Firebug. That's a personal, and they discontinued Firebug, but now I'm getting more used to the Firefox developer tool. So I have a CLI. I'm going to show a little bit more about the CLI. And it's a command line interface. And you have a Docker, and you can create a RabbitMQ Docker image that's going to spin up a RabbitMQ in my machine. So I have RabbitMQ Docker here. And basically, I have a queue. I'm going to create any queue name. And now I can send message. Now I can send message to that queue. Whatever I send here would reach my system. So, and I would have to type here, click here a few times. So let me just clean up whatever I did. So instead of doing that, I have another thing here. You can do CLI Docker JavaScript, and it's going to copy a code for me. So Docker JavaScript. It's going to copy this code for me here, right? So this is the code this is a JavaScript code that basically has an event. This is how the event we need to interact with. So basically the event that I need to interact with is this one. And if I get the inspection tool here, I'm going to see that this one is a name payload. And this one is a button with a value publish message. So by popping up the console here, I can put the code here. So let me make a little more room here. And my code basically is going to have 4 IDs. It's going to loop through that ID. It's going to change the event ID. And sorry, I need to have the full code here. So I have an event. It's an ID. It's a JSON. So this is how I change a JavaScript JSON. And then I'm going to use a little bit of JavaScript and DOM to send them the event to that specific field and to click on that field. And it's going to do it as many as IDs I have here. So and it publish all those messages, and if I get those messages, then I have ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, ID 4. I could also do with IDE, but that's an example of something that we need to do, and this was like 4 weeks ago, something that we need to do. We didn't, even if we tried to do it 1,000 times clicking it, it wouldn't reach the performance thing that we will try to test, and this help us out to do that in production. And Java, right? So a lot of people, usually a lot of people has more, I'm not really sure here in the US, but in Brazil, a lot of people has some Java knowledge because of college or because something that they play with. So there's tendency of going to Java because it's more simple since they already have some basic knowledge. But any tool that you try to work with is going to have various tools. You just need to pick one that suits for you and find interesting. So in Java, if you are doing unit tests, then you want to use JUnit. If you want to test an API, you can use rest assured. Contract tests, you can even use rest assured for contract tests. So there are various tools that you can use. And one of the things that I really find interesting is command line in Unix. So I find that usually a lot of devs, they don't have Unix knowledge, and very few or shallow shell script or any script language knowledge like ZSH or Corn Shell. And it's very interesting that whenever I'm pairing or whenever I'm doing something in a command line in shell, some of the devs that never worked with me say, hey, you know that you are QA and I'm learning from you. I said, what's the matter? What's the issue with that? Right? So it breaks a little bit of the boundaries when the dev thinks that a QA only knows how to test and he actually has a broader knowledge of other stuff. And I really like the CLI because it can help you achieve a lot of stuff. You can, the way a shell script interacts with a Unix system is very transparent. It's very beautiful, as I say. You can do the same with Ruby, with Java, with Python, but it's not the same, right? So, I'm going to show you a little bit here. So, I wrote this shell script just for this presentation, and it's on the GitHub, and my GitHub, and you can use it. You can. I'm going to share with you. So, I had an issue maybe a couple months ago that I had a bunch of images, and I wanted to put in one single PDF. And I have maybe 30 folders, and each folder with 40 images that I want to put on a single PDF. Would I go on a Mac? I can just open all the images. I can print it, and I can save as a PDF. I didn't want to do this 30 times. I didn't want to do it 40 times. So I found a tool called Convert that you can convert any PDF on any image on PDF. So let's say example 1. So I have the tools here. So if I do convert to test.pdf, it's going to write a PDF with all of that. But there is a problem, right? So here's image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. But the PDF was written in 1, 2, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 3, 21. And this is basically how Unix, so when I show all the files here, it does 0, 1, 10, 11, 12, and so on and so forth. And I didn't want that. So one way of fixing that was put an extra 0 in front of some of those. But again, I would have to do that for 30 folders or so, and I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I used this CLI to CLI image convert PDF, and I send the folder. It's going to, it's still dumb. It's going to navigate to each image, each folder, and whenever there is no folder to navigate, it's going to convert everything there. It could be a little bit smarter because if I had an image here, it's not going to find it, but it helped me out, and so yeah. So example, PDF. And as part of the code, I I made send to the temp folder, PDF temp folder, and it has here the both PDF, and it has the name of the folder that it was in. So now I have everything organized the way I want it. So a little bit on that, it's not complex code. So this is a framework, a CLI framework, which is really simple to use. And I can show here in a little bit. So if I have my image that basically this CLI, this framework is going to make the menu for you. So I have the convert PDF, which is my option. And I create a folder. I create a variable with all the information that is being sent. So in shell, this is how you get the parameter. So this is the first parameter. And since this is the first, I don't care about the first anymore. I only care about the second and so on. So this is how I say, hey, get everything from the second parameter forward. And I pass everything here to this convert image PDF. Right? So another thing that I like to do is I have two branches. One of the branch is making work, and the other branch is the final code. So the code is this convert image PDF is right here in the image. So if you go there, the first thing that I try to do is make it work. It's going to be rough and ugly. And once it works, then you can look it up in more like a big picture and you can fine tune it. So basically what I do is I have a folder to save. It's a temp PDF folder. And I have all my variable that I received. I enter, which is a folder, right? So I send the folder, the path of the folder that I want to convert. I enter that folder with the cd command and I loop it. So basically what I do is I execute the ls command, and the ls lists everything that there is. And I do a for on each and every one of those files. And the dash D is if it's a directory. So if it's a directory, go into that directory and get my current folder. So one thing nice about shell is that you can actually try it out in your terminal. So if I do, and the command that I created is just going to give me the folder that I'm in, not the path, just the folder. So I get that current folder and I send to the PDF converter with that current folder in hand. And once it comes back, it's going to leave the folder and it's going to go to the next folder. It's going to loop through all my folders. Once it goes to the converter, then again, I have the folder to save again here. I have the name of the file here, which is the parameter that I sent, which basically is the folder name, the shell CLI. And again, if the folder does not exist, the one that I'm going to save, if it's not a folder, then create that folder. I'm now going to loop through each and every one of that file in that folder. And if it's a file, the -f means if a file. If it's a file, then if the file has the quantity of five characters, then modify the file name with a 0. Why 5 characters? Because in my example here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each and every one of the files that had 5 characters, I wanted to change to 0001. The decimals and so on, it already has 6, so I didn't want to mess one of those. So if the file has 5 characters, then I want to add a 0 in front of it. And this is how I address the file in shell. And then after I did it, I convert everything, and I move that PDF file to a different folder. And that's going to do everything else. So after I did this, I want to make it more reusable and make more cleaner. So what I did was I changed a little bit. So my image is still the same code, does the same thing, nothing else, but it's more clean, it has a little bit more responsibility on each and every one of those. So pretty much what I did was I created a function to get the properties. So I have a property file here, and I say, hey, this is where I want to put my folder in, my files in. So I get that property. I get the folder path the same as before. I enter the folder path. So instead of looping, I go to the convert image. The convert image is going to loop for me. It's going to check if it's a dir. It's going to go in the dir. It's going to get the current folder. And it's going to do the PDF converter with the name of the current folder. And it's going to leave the folder so we can go to the next one. And the PDF converter is going to check if it's the go-to directory is there. If not, it's going to create it. It's going to fix the file. It's going to convert. And it's going to move the files to the folder to save. And the fixed file pretty much only checks if the file has only 5 characters and finalize the file. So once I finalized the code, ugly as it was, I was able to make more cleaner. I could even make more cleaner, but I was happy enough. So hey, how can I use this tool, right? So it's really interesting because I have like a Git functionality here, so CLI Git. And you can update, you can fetch, you can see the status of your Git. And pretty much what the Git tool is going to go into the same parent folder as the CLI, and it's going to check the Git for everything there. So I'm on documents, code, shell CLI, and my parent folder has all this code. Some of them has CLI, some of them has a repository, some of them they don't. But what I can do, and I don't need to be in the folder itself, I can be anywhere else. So if I do CLI, it's going to work. This is, sorry, I hate Mac DS store files. So if I do git and I do git status, it's going to check the status of all of my projects of each folder in that specific project. I wanted to update all my repositories. I would do git update. And it's going to go there. And it's going to go to each repository that it finds within that parent folder. And it's going to update. It's going to take a while. But how can you work with that? So let me get the image as an example. So I'm going to create a new file here. And I'm going to remove this. I don't need this. And I'm going to say meetup. Example. I don't need this. And I'm going to save it, and I'm going to put meetup. So now, once I use the CLI command, the meetup's already here. I don't need the shell. It found that folder, it found that new file, and already created the menu option here. So let me remove this. It's making me mad. There you go. So if I do CLI meetup, it's going to show whatever I did in that specific file. And something can become a switch here, so something. And now I can just do echo I entered. So I do meetup, and then I do something. Then I entered. So you can, from now on, you can do whatever you want to do in this code to whatever your needs, right? So you also have like a setup here, which basically checks if you have the necessary tools to use it. So my CLI is using convert. If you don't have convert installed, then it's not going to work. So I can do CLI setup, and there's the check option. And it's going to check if that code, if that library is installed or not for you. So this is already set up here. You just need to populate whatever. If I put here something else, it's going to say that that's not installed, and this is how you should install it. Yeah, I have my own nutty CLI I call R2D2, and it has some options like the same thing for Git. It has some sort of handling hard drives on Mac, going to a file hoster that I have, messing it up with videos and doing some sort of setup. So I use on my project, I use for me because it helped me out doing stuff that I need to repetitively do. And I guess that was it. Any questions? No questions? So I'm going to send the presentation to Alisa, and I'm going to put the repository link in there for the CLI code, and you can try it out. Thank you.